Welcome everyone, and thanks for joining us today. This is the Find Your Ancestors series presented by Appleton Public Library. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Katie Stope. I'm the local history librarian, and I'm excited that you're joining us today. Like I said, just a few quick announcements before we get started. First, I just want to thank the Friends of the Appleton Public Library for supporting the Find Your Ancestors series. If you've never attended a Find Your Ancestors presentation before, we do this every month. It used to be something that we only did in winter in person, and now with this virtual environment, we've been able to expand it and do it every month this year. So definitely stay tuned and look for our future programs. You can sign up to attend future Find Your Ancestors programs. If you take a look at the handout, there are links to register for the upcoming ones. Our next one is going to be July 17th, and it's on finding your German ancestors with maps and gazetteers. The August one is August 14th, and it's on the family black sheep, presented by Judy Russell, the legal genealogist. And then in September, we're going to do what we're going to call a hybrid program, where those people who are local, you're able to attend in person. But if you're not local or you're not comfortable with doing an in-person event, you can still attend virtually via Zoom. The July and August ones, we're going to keep virtual just because we're still figuring things out with the hybrid program, and with the time that the library is open, it doesn't quite work with our program time. But I'm excited that you guys will all be able to join us regardless of where you're from. You can either, like I said, join us in person or virtual starting in the fall. My email is also in the handout. If you have any questions after the program that you didn't get answered, we'll have a Q&A at the end today. If you have any questions, you can type it in the Q&A box or the chat box, and we'll try our best to answer those at the end. Otherwise, you can feel free to email me. And I also encourage you to check out our YouTube channel for our past programs. There's also a link in the handout for that. And Angie, our speaker today, actually has a really awesome house history talk that she did last fall for us. That's still on our YouTube channel that I encourage you guys to check out. This program that we're doing today is being recorded, and it will be on YouTube, I'd say probably Monday. So definitely feel free to check that out if you missed any of it or you want to go back and rewatch it. After the program, I do have a short 8-question survey. I'll put the link in the chat towards the end. If you want to take a few minutes just to give us some feedback and let us know what you thought of today's presentation, that's great. There's also a link in the handout. Now, without further ado, I'll introduce our speaker today. Our speaker today is Angie Knutson, and she's been a passionate genealogist for 30 years. She's always learning new things and loves sharing what she's learned with others. So she's going to talk to us today about how to organize your genealogy. So welcome, Angie.
Hi, everybody. It is cool to see people from all over the world, and a little nerve-wracking. When she told me how many people were signed up, I thought, oh, I think maybe I shouldn't have asked that question. But bear with me. I am a genealogist, working on becoming a professional genealogist, very, very close. A very informal person. No, I'm not real formal. I'm very personable. I love talking with people. I love sharing. And like she said, our topic today is how to store your genealogy. If you have been into genealogy for a while, let's face it, you've got tons of stuff, and you've got stuff everywhere, probably scattered in your safe, in one room, in the other room, or maybe it's just all in a box somewhere, or, it's just laying around. It's just, and you're thinking, I really need to organize this, because if something happens to me, people are going to look at this and they're not going to know what it is, and they're probably going to throw it out. And then there's all your years of research, your time, your energy, your effort, all those gold nuggets that you found, gone. So even though it's not the most fun thing to do, it is a necessary thing to do. So wherever you are at in your genealogy, stop right now, or we'll finish where you're at, and start putting your stuff together. And it's going to take you a couple of months at least. All right, give yourself a break now and then, go back to your genealogy, get back excited. Otherwise, you might just get so sick of it, you'll never go back. It's like, oh, I have to do all this. I don't want to be a genealogist anymore, but you need to do it. So what I'm going to do is share my screen, then I'll break from the share screen once in a while when I have something that I want to show you and to hold up, because it's kind of hard for you to see in that little box in the side. So I'm going to share screen. Let's see if I can do this right. And every time I do it, I have to go back and hit this presentation. So bear with me here. There we go. Okay, so organizing your genealogist. Yeah, organize me, please. I need organization. I'm your genealogy research. Right, and I'm going to hit the enter key, and hopefully that will Oh, let's see. How do I make this go to the next slide? There we go. Okay, so topics. All right, so we're going to go through a bunch of topics, and I'm not the best PowerPoint presentation person in the world. So if anything's a little askew, just it's there, just go with it. All right, so you want to keep it all on record. We go over hard copies and sources, pedigree charts, research logs. These are all ways that you have to record your information. How to record your information, how to store it, very, very important. For future research, how do I know what I want to do next? How do I remember what I want to do next? Storing your photos. You've all got those precious photos, hopefully, that you need to take care of. And if you don't, I'll show you some examples of what happens, and it's not pretty. Originals. What type of originals do I need? How do I store them? And then we're just going to go over some odds and ends at the ends, just little things that don't deserve a full topic, but that we need to go over. Okay, so the first thing, and I will talk slower. I'm nervous, I talk fast, so I'll try to talk a little bit slower here. You want to organize all your information in sheets. Well, gee, Angie, I have a computer program. What do I want to do that for? We're going to go over that in a little bit. You have to have hard copies. You have to have paper. You've got to have this down on paper, right? What you want to do when you're researching things is be meticulous. Write down as much information as you know or have on a person. You don't have a source yet or anything, write it down. You can always research the source later, but write it down or you're going to forget it. I can't tell you how much information I've forgotten because I heard it and then I didn't write it down. Okay, and put all the information you have about one person together, and then put your other information about another person together. Start categorizing it by person. Each person will have a different sheet for this, for information on them. It's going to be a lot of papers, I know, especially if you're pretty far. I'm going back to the 1600s, so talking a lot of papers. And what I mean by that is interviews. If you interview people, census records, birth records. Census records you'll have to make a copy probably for every single person, multiple copies for a person, or we'll go over that later. Naturalization papers, birth certificates, death certificates, and all those things, marriage certificates, etc. You can't get the original, very common. You're not going to be able to get your hands on the original because it's in a courthouse or something somewhere. Take a picture. They'll let you photocopy it. They charge pretty good for that. But if they let you photocopy it. So an example, I don't have a family Bible. My cousin does. But what I did do was take my camera over there and took a picture of the head page that listed all the people that were alive at that time in the family tree. Okay, and I've included on that paper a place for you to get papers you could use to organize your research, and we'll go over that too. It's at the end of the presentation. I believe that Katie's already handed that out to you, so you can look at that at the end. It gives you a website to go to. They have wonderful templates, blank, that you can download and that you can start to use. You can also purchase them from a store, but you can find them all over the web. Just type in genealogy templates, boom, a ton of stuff comes up. All right, so sources. So always, and you noticed I capitalized that, cite your sources. You're going to want to go back to get that information later. Here's a great example. Oh my gosh, I got this great piece of information. I found this great piece of information about, our great Uncle Frank. You did? Well, where, show it to me. I can't. Why not? Because I didn't cite my source and I don't remember where I found it. Sound familiar? Yeah, I think I've done that about a dozen times. Write down the website, write down the book, write down the person who told you to it, write down the microfilm number. You've got the source from. Use a Cite source sheet, okay, and that's included at the end too. You can grab that template. Have a source sheet for every person you happen to be researching. Put everything on it you have about that person, everything. Whether it seems inconsequential, doesn't make a difference. You might need to go back to it in the future. So you want to make sure that you write down every single piece of information you have about that person on your Cite source sheet. And the Cite source sheet can also be recorded on a research group sheet. Let's see if I can have that in the next one. Okay, so research log is a good place that you can also write down your Cite sources. They're good for future research. If you find something that you just don't have time, excuse me, to research now, but you need to do it later, you write it down there, and then you can go back to it. So I've come across several hints. I belong to Ancestry. It's like, oh, that's great, but I'm in the middle of something else. I don't have time to research it. So I write down that hint. And then I'll come back to it later. I write it down with all the pertinent information I need to do it later. Cite sources. Sort out what hasn't been found. I don't have their birth certificate. I don't have their marriage certificate. I don't know when they died. I don't have their regular city they were born in. Okay, this is the stuff you need to write down that you need to do. You want to use this log to weigh evidence to make better conclusions and reduce duplicate research. Lots of times, like, oh, I already researched that already. If you have it on the log and you can weigh it, well, okay, which is more relevant? Yeah, this is an actual source. This one I heard word of mouth, but this one I heard source. So then you can cross out one. You don't need to duplicate that research. You don't need to go to that other source anymore because you've already got it down and cited and documented. And don't avoid recording negative research results. Why would you want to do this? So you don't go back and research it again. I've done that so many times. Oh, I already visited this site. Darn it, I forgot. I already researched this. That's why you need to write down your failed researches. Write them down in your source sheet so that you know you don't want to go to that again, because that's valuable time. And genealogy takes a lot of time. Don't waste it. Write down the bad results. Okay, if you come up with a result that's negative, you can write nil on the log. You can write a little line through it, however you want to categorize it, do that. And the logs can also help you decide if you need to revisit this source, because maybe there's pages you looked at and some you didn't. There's 20 pages or there's 20 screens I have to go through on this website to see if my ancestor is on here. I can write down that I got through screens 1 through 10, but I didn't make it to the rest. So when I come back and I pick up on this, I need to start with screen 11, because we all know that going through screens can get extremely, actually sometimes it gets a little boring because you're just searching for that name. You have to go through so many other names. You might have to click on the link to verify to see if the birthday comes anywhere close to what you thought it was. And then, decide if that's going to be relevant or if it's not. So don't do it to the point of exhaustion. Do it to the point where I just can't stand to look at one more page. I just can't do this. So then you write down, okay, today, and write down the date. I researched pages 1 through 10 on something.com. And then next time, come back to it and then pick up on page 11 or pick up on the name that you started off on. Right? The logs also help you with other relatives. More often than not, a document will contain information about several relatives, census records in particular. So you have to include this document with each person you want to do a research log for. And the number one will be a census record. But birth certificates, wedding certificates, they all have information with other relatives. And all that information can be pertinent because it links one relative to another. And that helps you in your research. You can do a log for each person like I do, or you can do it for an entire family. However, only do one generation at a time. Don't do a log for more than one generation because it's just way too confusing. You're going to lose track. All right, so this is a research log. This is an example, and I took one that's already filled out. I have no idea who this guy is, but I just found this and I liked the way it looked. Place of research. So this is, the first one you look at, they called him. All right, they talked to him. And what were they seeking? Now you write down what he wrote down. He's seeking information about a certain person. All right, and then he wrote down that it was a telephone conversation. There's no document number with this one, but you see with the next one, where he went to the family history library in Utah, or you could pull that up online. He wrote down at the very end the document number where he found it from. That's very important. And then he just did the, ditto, ditto, ditto for the place of research. But every time he got information, he wrote it. And then if you go down a little bit longer, you see that he scratched a line, place of research, purpose, call. He just went to the National Archives and found something on page 274. Somebody gave him that information, so he didn't actually research himself. Okay, and on the very bottom, he's got a question he needs answered. Were any children born between James, 1870? And then he wrote down a suggestion for himself. You can see how helpful this is too, because when you're researching, you tend to research more than one person at a time. And if you can hit a brick wall, you're going to go to another person and just take a little mental break because you can't do it anymore. So he wrote down the questions he needs. That's what I was talking about, future research that he needs to look at the next time he or she doing this, although it's he, David, is researching this ancestor, so that you're not starting cold and duplicating, because there's nothing more frustrating, like I said, than duplicating your research. You've wasted valuable time. Now you see up on the top where it says researcher G. David Diltz, and he's got a little 3. That means this is the 3rd research log he has on this person. You're going to want to number your research logs in case you drop them, or if you want to categorize, you're saying, you're going to write down this was found on research log number 3. So you want to categorize them and research them because these are going to go in a binder after that relative, and you want to put them in order. Okay, moving on. Another one that is a pedigree chart, and this is what some people call the family tree chart. Okay, they're optional, but they're kind of valuable for carrying it with you because it's hard to remember all those names, and lugging a computer along with you is a real inconvenience. And maybe there's not internet, maybe your battery died, something happened, like what happened to me last week. I uploaded an update to Windows 10 and it entirely crashed my whole computer. So I had to go back and restore the whole computer. You get someplace, your computer doesn't work. Paper copies work a lot better. So if you have this pedigree chart, you can hold it up, like I would hold up this piece of paper and I would say, oh, look, here's, Joe, and then his mom and dad, and then his kids, and then his kids, and then you go down, and it's very easy for people to understand who you're talking about that way. That's why I like pedigree charts. You see them all the time at family reunions because you can trace. You can go back and you can trace. Okay, and there's several types. You'll find many, many on the internet. You may need to combine several together to fully chart a family. The last Irish reunion I went to filled up the entire wall of a pole shed. A pole shed is a huge building. Think of a warehouse, part of a warehouse. He filled up the entire wall. His pedigree chart was so huge. And that's what I said in the bottom. There'll come a time when it will take up a whole wall. That means you've been successful and that you've been very meticulous, which is what you want to do if you want to spread that far. Some people only go back to parents, grandparents, great-grandparents. So it depends upon what you want to do, but I highly recommend a pedigree chart. Okay, and this is an example of a pedigree chart. This is one I got from the National Genealogical Society. They have the best templates, so I have found, and I have included their website on your handout. They have a lot of them. I like the way they have them stored, and I like how easy they are to fill out. And you can see where this one starts. Would be in the very left with the person that you're doing. And let me look here. It's got fourth, it's got the, definitions on the right, and then it goes to the next generation and the next generation. So this is a 4-generational. And then you would have to spread out from there, which they also give you on that website. In the upper right corner, it tells you page number. So that when you want to put them together, you can easily put the pages together. So I love these. I highly encourage you to make these. You put them at the beginning of every book you have. And then it helps you know exactly where. All right. And there is a raised hand, so I'm going to see if I can get to that. Let's see. Is there an easy way to go back to my tree and find links to FHL citations that didn't have the image available online? With the pandemic. Oh, yeah. And I'm realizing you have no idea how to find. You know what I would do on that one is I would actually contact the FHL and have them help you with that, because they're going to be quicker at telling you, because I would have to know exactly what you did. And I'll get to the rest of yours at the end of the presentation. I see that you've raised a hand. I'm going to keep moving on, and then at the end, we'll get to all the questions. And I will answer to the best of my capability. But anytime you have a question that you got at a certain, if there wasn't a video image of it, that's where when you take in that information, that's when you write that down, and it's important. And writing down the website. If you don't have a website, then what you have to do is start researching that information on your computer to find a website where it came from. So, and that's, I'm going to tell you, that can be a tedious task, but oh, so rewarding when you find that out. So that is going to be the best way to do it. Oh, it doesn't want to let me advance here. Hold on. There we go. All right. Recording information. You record your information in a specific manner because there's a universal way that genealogists record their information. Names, you're thinking, oh, it's first, it's last, first, middle, right? No, it's always first, middle, last in that order. Okay, I'm recording my mom's name. My maiden name was Michalowski. So I would record Carlene Michalowski. No, I record her name as Carlene Eva Gorn, her maiden name. You always use the maiden name with women, because when you're looking them up, that's what you need to go by. If you're looking for their relatives, you're not going to find it under their married name. You need to find it under their maiden name. And like I said, this is a worldwide standard format. And why do you want to use this? So when other people are looking at your information or when you're sharing, it is easy for them to follow and it's easy for them to see. It also gets you into the habit of recognizing when you're looking at other people's family tree, how to find their information. It makes it easier for you to follow, easier for you to understand. You want to list all the jurisdictions, the smallest to the largest, town or parish. It could just be a parish. Sometimes people list a parish. Back then, churches held all the information because people didn't have books, they couldn't afford them, or they just didn't have writing utensils. So the parish recorded all the information, which is why churches are so valuable. The county, the province, as they're called over in Europe, or district, they're called over there, the state, and then the county. So example, if you live here, you put Appleton first, that's the smallest, then Outagamie County, that's the next largest, then Wisconsin, that's the next largest, and then the United States. If you're over in Europe, it would be the town, and then the province, or it could be the I'm not saying this right, Vivodship, Vivodship, as they call them over there, might be the province, and then the country, because they don't have states over there. So always spell out the state. Don't use an abbreviation. Someone looking at your information, if you put it on familytree.org or if you record it on Ancestry and they're not from this country, they don't know what WI means, but they do know what Wisconsin means, usually. So you want to make sure that you always spell the state out. Don't abbreviate. It's easier to do that way. It's tempting to do that way. Don't do it. Take the long route. Okay, update. I can't say this enough. It's a pain in the neck, but update every chance you get on a constant basis. Each time you add a new piece of information, each time you find something out, put it on your research log. Take you maybe a minute to record that down. 1 minute to have that information saved so that you don't have to worry about it. If you think you're going to remember it or where you got it from, you are wrong. Like I said, you're not gonna. Oh, I'll remember that. 2 minutes later, you've totally forgotten where you got it from because you've moved on 3 screens down the line. And no matter how many times you hit your back button, you can't figure out where you got that piece of information from. Okay, it's a pain and it's tedious, but you got to do it. Okay, don't learn the hard way like I've done and many genealogists have done. I can't tell you all the places I can now not find, and it would have been key, but I didn't write it down because I was just so excited that I found a piece of information. And I was so excited that I could press the button and hit the next screen to get that second piece of information that I didn't take the time to write down the first screen. And by the time I was 4 screens in, I was lost. So, or I had lost a connection, or I got distracted and then something happened. So right then and there, always have your research. If you don't have the research log there, then write it on a piece of notebook paper, transfer it later on. You're writing that on the notebook paper, write down who you're researching, his connections, so that you remember that too. Right, you want to get the best possible copies of your information. Now, I realize you can't always have the original because somebody else has a family Bible because you went to the family history library, or I went to the library up in Green Bay and it's stored in their safe. And I was actually handling original documents up there, hundreds of years old. So you can't have that because that's stored up there. You want to always make sure that you judge the relevance and the reliability of the information. If this is a copy that somebody else gave you, is it reliable? Where did they get it from? Word of mouth isn't usually a good source. Unless it happened to that person, then it is an excellent source. Okay, taking it from another family tree, you want to check their work and their sources. Where did they get it from? Make sure that they're just not remembering this and it was a story that was passed down and it wasn't true. Everybody always told me my great-grandfather died in the field when he was working. Not true. He died on the way to his outhouse in the middle of the night when he was going in the winter. But that was the thing that was passed down. And then doing my research and actually talking to an actual relative who knew him, that's what happened. So that's what I mean by relevancy. Is it relevant? You want to make sure. And you bet that I immediately went home and wrote that down so that I had it. Okay, strive to see the original with your own eyes. If you're in a city, if you're probably your ancestors are from that city, or go to the city where they're from, go to the courthouse, go to the family history center, go to the colleges. The colleges usually have histories in them. Oshkosh here in town has one. Green Bay on their campus has one, their university. And they store the originals. Okay, make copies from the most original source. I'm going to give you some examples here. Okay, so I'm going to break from the screen for a little bit, stop sharing, so that you can see what I'm holding up. All right, here we go. Okay, so this is this is embarrassingly enough to say, this is my kindergarten report card. This is an original source. Okay. And then I have a birth certificate. All right. Or I'm sorry, this is a death certificate. All right. This is an original source because it is an original copy of a death certificate. I have my grandfather's immigration papers to the United States. This is a rare, very valuable and original certificate. And I am blessed to have it. Not a lot of people are that fortunate. Right? And here's another birth certificate, just a register of deeds. That's an original. Those are all what I call originals. Your marriage certificate is an original. Your birth certificate is an original. Take care of them. Don't throw them in a file somewhere. Put them with your genealogy. Put your originals. We'll go on this later on, but after you store them, you got to put them someplace fireproof so nothing happens to them. I was up in Green Bay and I copied the will from my great grandmother. Now I couldn't take it. I was touching it and they didn't have me wear gloves. I was kind of leery about that because it was well over 100 years old. So I made a copy on a copier. All right, I'm going to hold this up. It's not real great because the paper was pretty old, pretty brittle. And I was very careful with it. This is a photocopy. Okay, so in this case, this is going to be the best case of how close you can get to an original. That is the best thing that you're going to get. If you have, and there's other original things too. There might be original family heirlooms. There might be original, and if you can't get the original of a family heirloom, take a picture of it. Put it in with your genealogy. Do some research on it. Always try to get an original. I'm going to go back to sharing my screen, and I'm going to have to go back and do it this way. All right, let's do this. Share. Okay. Okay, so again, strive to see the original with your own eyes. If you can't, do the best you can, but record that information, hard copy, right? Don't take a picture of it, throw it on a website. Don't do that just yet. All right. You know, sometimes my computer is just a little picky here. It's not letting me advance to the next page. All right, here we go. Next. Oh, look at that, just like magic. Okay, a few things to consider when copying. Respect copyright laws. When I went to Green Bay, I asked permission for me to copy. I saw the copy machine, so I figured it was going to be okay, but ask permission. They might do it for you. They might not want you to do it because photocopying can damage valuable records. I was actually, again, even surprised that they let me do that. But it was a college student, so I don't think he was aware of genealogy practices. Okay, fair use privileges exist for personal use. Okay, this doesn't mean that you can copy something and throw it up in a book or put it on an internet site. That's where copyright laws get pretty strict because somebody could catch you and say, hey, where did you get that? Because that's copyrighted. Or that's personal information that they don't want published. I would never put that will on an internet site. It's with my genealogy things, but it is not. I did not take a picture of it and put it on Ancestry or put it somewhere else. I might make a description of it, but I will not put it on there because it's personal information, even though they've passed away. It's not for other people to see. So I put a copy on here of the copyright library. It's the fair use of copyrighted materials on the internet. Pretty good synopsis or summary of what you can use and what you can't use, what you can photocopy, what you can't photocopy, what you can share, what you can't share. Pretty good use of that. It's a pretty good explanation of it. So I would probably go with that. And just take a look at that before you start photocopying things. It's only take you a couple minutes to read, and it's well worth your time. You don't want to get yourself in trouble. All right, storing your work. This is the fun part. Oh my gosh, yes. Okay, you want to store copies so they'll be readable 100 years from now. Internet is not reliable. Computers can break down. Your jump drive gets lost or it gets damaged. The CD discs deteriorate, DVDs deteriorate. 100 years from now, they're probably not going to be readable, and I know that. Look at all VHS tapes. Look at how you pop one in, and it's just horrible. We thought they'd last forever, right? Wrong. You're not gonna. That's why you have to have a paper backup storage system. Yeah, have an internet website. I have Ancestry. I have familytree.org, which is open to the general public, and that's how I get a lot of information because I can share, and that's free. So a lot of people tend to use this one. I also have Family Tree Maker. I have, some of my own that I use on the internet. Get an internet set. but don't let that be your only source of storage. Because 100 years from now, there could be no internet because something could have happened, or there was a virus that took it all down, or there was a cyber attack that took it all down. Then you've got nothing because all your information's gone. So make sure that you store your work on hard copies. So 100 years from now, people can look at it. I know people who have the whole wall of a room. I'm jealous of them with their genealogy, but they're smart enough to have stored it. And 100 years from now, somebody can go in there and look at it. All right, the easiest way to store it, like I said, is with genealogy software. However, like we said, it can also become outdated to the point where you can't reload it anymore. I've given you a couple software programs you can purchase or are online. Like FamilySearch.org is a free one online and probably the most popular one out there. Ancestry is a paid subscription. It's the most universal and probably the most popular paid online subscription there is. And I got to admit, I'm not plugging anything for Ancestry because there's a lot of there's legacy.com, there's RootsWeb, there's a lot of them. But I have learned a lot of things on Ancestry, and you can get those things backdoors and sometimes you can't. Okay, Family Tree Maker is one that you can buy online, download. In fact, you can buy most of these online and download them onto your computer. You can go to a bookstore, I think, and buy them, Barnes & Noble, and buy some of them to download too. Roots Magic, it's a good one. I use that. Family Historian 6. I say 6 because that is the latest version. If you're going to buy one, make sure you always buy the latest version. You could find one on eBay. It might not be the latest. You're going to miss out on some great updates and some great tools. Legacy Family Tree. Usually they cost about $100. Okay, usually. Every program has its advantages and disadvantages. One of the ones I have does not store pictures. So I can't put the pictures of my family. So I went out and purchased another one. But it's purely a matter of personal preference. It's up to you. It's ease of use. It's what it does for you, what you want it to do, what you don't want it to do. Okay, that's all up to you. But you certainly purchase one. That way, when you carry your computer, you have it. You can't lug your whole hard copy library, but those hard copies do come in handy when you need them. File folder system. You will need to purchase file folders. Okay, I recommend hardcover folders, such as this. You can see from there. This one here. Now, this is kind of floppy. Okay, stores a little bit easier. It's a 3-ring binder, but it works. All right, you're going to want to make sure that anything you print off that you want for a while is acid-free paper. Now, this is more useful when you're printing off maybe impertinent information like a birth certificate or something. You can put it on regular paper. If you, I'm going to open this up here. I just purchased these. Buy some clear plastic like this. You can see it. Okay, make sure that it is for archival purposes so that it also acid-free. Because why does it have to be acid-free? Because acid will destroy the paper. When I went to that library in Mary Bay and everything was yellow and crinkled and tearing at the edges, it wasn't stored in a humidified place, dehumidified place, and it wasn't acid-free. That's what happens. And some of them I could barely read because they were so deteriorated, I could barely read. The ink fades, the ink blurs. The papers get yellow, it crumbles. It's just over time, and some of them I didn't even want to touch because I touched it and I could feel it crinkle under my finger. You want to store your stuff so that, like I said, you have it 100 years from now. Okay, and you want to separate each family within a file family. So that means that some people have, what I have right next to me here is a file cabinet. And in it, they just use regular file folders. And they have the name of an ancestor on top of that file folder. Next one, next one, next one. Okay, and that you use file dividers. You can use them in a free binder too. You've got file dividers. You can purchase them on Amazon it's like $16 for $50 or pretty much at any office supply store. Those don't have to be acid-free. They're just separating your ancestors from your ancestor. Okay, I usually do 1 generation per binder too when I do mine. That's it too. Okay, if folders can be used, I'll show you an example. This is how I first started my genealogy. I did folders. Yep, use the kids' folders that they had in school. Right here, I just put a folder, and I put my stuff back in so you can see what I mean. I put everything in the pockets, nice and messy, no rhyme or reason, no organization. Folders ripped on top. This is not a good way to keep your genealogy. You can do it, but I don't really recommend it because it just gets really messy. You've got folder upon folder. You can't flip. You can't. They won't hold everything. It gets bulky. binders are just much more professional, and they're just a much easier and neater way to store your work. So I would go with, even if you have to have 50 binders, I would go with binders. Okay, you want to start with the pedigree sheet. That should be the first page in your binder. Okay, and the pedigree sheet we looked at, which is kind of like a family tree. After that, you start with the head couple and you put them on a family sheet. All right, a family sheet you'll see coming up has the person's name on it, has everything about them, has all their children, has their children's children, actually just has their children. Okay, so on a family sheet, I thought I had one here, but that must be one thing that I forgot this morning. Okay, here we go. Here's a family group sheet. All right, I'm going to go off this for a minute here. Stop the share. Now, the hardest part of your computer is finding that little arrow you need to point on stuff. All right, so this is a family. Again, we're going to go back to the family group sheet. Okay, I don't know if I want it different, but you can see right up here, family group number. I would put number 1 because these are the people that I started my research with, which is usually going to be me. You start your genealogy with you, and you go back. All right, and then I write down my husband's full name, my full name. You write down all the pertinent information that you need for this family group sheet. I'm going to pull this back a little bit. Okay, that's you. Okay, then you've got all the information on you. Then after that, I would have I'm going to go back and share my screen again with you. After I do that, okay, then I have to use a universal format we discussed earlier. So first name, middle name, last name. And then I go back and I put everything in about me. That's where I'll have a file folder, and I might have a copy of it, probably not the original because that I've stored in my safe. But you can make a copy of a birth certificate just to put in your binder. Or you can put the original there if you've got it stored safely. I'll put my birth certificate, my wedding certificate, anything that's pertinent to me that I want to keep with my name. Right, and that's the first page in my binder. And then after that, I have my husband's page. And then you're thinking, well, my gosh, then when do I put my husband's family? When do I put your husband's family would be a whole separate binder, actually. I'm just doing me. I'm just doing my binder, okay? Date of birth should be listed as follows: the day, the month, and the year. I know here in America, we do May 10th, 1999. That's not universal. In Europe, when you're doing your research, you will always see day, month, year. Get used to listing your things that way. Get used to reading it that way. So that when you do over there, it's easily understandable, especially when you're looking at some of those old records and you find them online. Okay, every child for that set of parents is listed. So both my kids are listed on mine. If there is a remarriage, you use a different family group sheet, okay, because it's another whole ball of wax. It's another whole situation. And you write down as much information as you have about each person. And again, here it's not going to let me. There we go. Okay, so there's the family group sheet. So I would have, myself, my husband, the wife, me, so I'm doing this, and I might write on the very top, I might write my name up there above family group sheet. Right, first child, second child, and then because this is from the NGS, National Genealogy Society, it goes on to another page that says second child or fourth child, third child, whatever that, and I write all those on there for now. I'm not worried about, and you can see on there, born, died, buried, all that stuff, male, female. It'll give you space, but I'm not worried about writing down their kids' names. That's another whole separate page that I will start for them. They get their own family group sheet. So you can see where this starts out, and you can see where the tedious part is coming in. You're recording everything for yourself separately, recording everything for your children separately, each child. And then when you get into their kids, if you're going that far with it, you record everything for them separately. Every time, every person gets his own family group sheet. So yeah, it can be. Add custom events to each family group sheet, such as family stories and pictures. You can attach these right behind the family group sheet. And again, if you don't want to put the original in there, you can, if you've got it properly stored. But if it's a really valuable photo, like some of my grandfather's immigration papers, those go in my safe. I'm not putting them there in case something would happen. Okay, remember to cite your sources. Or you can put a number by the fact, and then it's listed on the research log that's farther. That's going to be probably the last thing under your group sheet. The last thing you put before you move on to somebody else is your research log. Always finish the paperwork before filing it and before moving on. Write down every effort you made on that research log. Include your photocopy sources within each family section. So when I had that will, I included that I got it out of the Green Bay Family History Library at the campus. Okay, label your documents if you prefer. John Smith, 1810 to 1900, this is document number 1. His children would be document number 2, document number 3, etc. If you want to do it, and start over with each different family name, right? So John Smith had a daughter named Mary. Mary Jo Brown. That's a different family name. So now my numbering starts over again, right? With her husband, 1, and then her kids, 2, 3, 4. Every time you start a different name, the numbers start over again. Great. Like I said, each family will be in 2 families, child, parent, unless the child was never married, then he stays on your sheet. Anything with him stays with you. Use different colors for families. You can. That's what I do. Red's for Smith, blue for Wood, green for Jones, whatever. It just makes it easier for me. And then at the beginning, I have a little title page that says what name is under what color, so I can quickly flip to that color and get to them real fast. Okay, you might want to organize by clusters, people who live close to each other. I don't do that. A lot of people don't do that, but I have seen it done. Use a filing cabinet to store your portables, or like you see down below, a portable, airtight plastic bin. Okay, make extra copies of your blank forms and store them as well so that you can pull them out. So make 50 family group sheets, make 50 family research logs, make a ton of blank ones so you're not always running to grab another copy or to make another copy. Have those on hand. It's so easy because you're going to go through those so fast. Those bins you can purchase at a Walmart, or if you're in a different country, your general merchandise store will have them. You don't have to get the archival kind for those. You can just use a regular plastic bin as long as it's airtight and pretty sturdy. Make sure that doesn't crack in the heat or the cold. When you're storing your things, you're not going to store them in an attic, not going to store them in a damp basement, right? You're going to store them in a humidified or dehumidified place that is safe. Think of Christmas ornaments. Where do you store your most valuable Christmas ornaments? Same thing for your genealogy. You want to store it someplace safe. Have you ever looked at somebody's papers and they reek of mildew? They're in the basement, right? Don't do that. It's just nasty. Just don't do that. It's real embarrassing to hold up a piece of paper to somebody and they're like, oh my gosh, where did you get that from? Store them properly so that you have them. Okay, future research. You know what? If you list everything you have to do on one page, it's overwhelming. So I just don't do it. I won't do that. At the end of each family folder, and like I mentioned on your research log, I list the things I need to do yet. And we saw that example where he said he had to know what sons were born between 1910 and 1914. Okay, and then on a given day, I'll go, okay, today I'm gonna look up Frank Michalowski. I'm gonna see what else I can find about him. And I'll flip to my research log and, oh, yep, this is where I left off. This is what I want to do. This is where I need to go. This is the screen number I need to go to. This is the, all that stuff, the year I need to go to. It makes it so much easier, and it makes it less stressful for you as a genealogist. That's why you have to do this stuff, because it just makes it less stressful for you. If I hit a brick wall, I've got a lot of brick walls, okay, I set them aside, refile them, and I'll come back to him later. And I'll pick out another folder, and I'll pick out another person, or maybe I'll wait till another day. All right, this is a short list of vital records. Birth, marriage, death, baptism records, those are what we call vital records. Best places to look: churches, courthouse, funeral homes, believe it or not. Funeral homes have amazing copies that you never even thought they would have had. Newspapers, FamilySearch.org, Ancestry, any of your online, CastleGardens.org, EllisIsland.org. You can get those vital records. Military records. Best place to find those is the National Archives or FamilySearch.org. Ancestry also has them. Family history, those are stories. Those are things you get. My father would tell me something. I don't care if I wrote it down on the edge of a newspaper. I wrote it down at that minute and then transferred it later, because those are valuable. Those are the most valuable part of your genealogy you have, because that's you. That's your family. That's history. That's how they did things. Someone was telling me once, every Easter, they took a ham and they cut the end of it off and they put it in a pan. And nobody knew why they did it. Like, why are we doing this? I don't know. somebody started researching and they found out that years ago, the pan that their great-great-grandmother used was so small, she couldn't fit the whole ham in. So she had to cut the end of it off. And they just kept doing that generation after generation. Well, what a cool story, and to put that in there and just get a chuckle out of it and just, it just lends something to your family history. So get those family stories, write them down, store them, and that's something I would put on archival paper, or I would make sure that I put it in a plastic archival file because you don't want to lose that stuff. Right? Newspaper articles, newspapers.com is a paid subscription, but you can get a lot of good information out there. Your local library, microfilm. That's where you're not going to be able to get the original source, so you use a photocopy. Okay, that's what I meant by local newspapers. Usually you can go to your library. Immigration records and nationalization records. Those are valuable, vital records. So, and Ellis Island, you can get a copy on Cite. You can take a screenshot. You can pay to get a more original looking copy. Castle Gardens was what was there before Ellis Island was there. It's probably where your ancestors came through. And photos. Okay, those are, I consider those, not every genealogist does, but I do. I consider those a vital record. That's how I see, oh my gosh, I looked like great aunt Erna, or whatever. I don't have a great aunt Erna, by the way. Okay, screen photos. Digital. It's an easy, quick reference, but like I said, 100 years from now, those CDs are deteriorated. The DVD is deteriorated. That zip drive is corrupted, and you can't use it. So what I did is there's a couple places you can go. Okay, so I recommend both digital and hard copies. Digital is easier to share with other people, and you can put a picture of each person in your family tree. When you have a digital family tree, you put a picture of that person. I also, in the beginning of each one of my people in my family book, I put a picture of that person. I'll photocopy and I'll put a picture on their family group sheet if I can fit it on there, or somewhere in there. I'll put a picture of that person. Okay, you can have old photos of spruced up and restored. I have a great photographer on the corner that I'm good friends with, and he does a good job for me. You can use a photo editing program, such as Photoshop.com. All right, you can use an online service such as iMemories, okay, which is what I use, or Legacy Box. Those are both very good. Not too bad price-wise, you would think. If you go to iMemories, they are usually going to send you something like this. You can see it if you look them up, 25% your next order. The ones that come, you pay $50 for the box. Now, this is just iMemories, and I'm pretty sure Legacy.com is much the same. They send you a box. Your $50 is covering all the supplies they send you. It covers the shipping for them to send the box to you, covers shipping for you to send the box back, and then it covers the shipping for you to send your originals back. Right? And they send you plastic to store things in. All right. And it takes a while, but I'll tell you the first time, because some of those photos that I had, and they were on slides. Everybody remembers when everybody took slides. They're popular anymore. Roll this down here. Oh, I thought I had a slide in here with me, but I don't. I must have forgotten to take it, and I apologize for that. But you remember the little slides, the tiny little slides that people took years ago. You have to hold them up to light to see them, or you have to have a slide projector. I turned those in, and I had them all converted for me. They converted them to digital. It was so exciting when they gave me the link and they had converted them. And I had not seen these pictures in years. Some of them were people I'd never even seen. And it was like Christmas, opening up that file and looking at those pictures. Oh my gosh, I can't tell you how exciting it was and how much fun it was. And I had to share them right away with everybody. So it's kind of a cool thing. You can have them, because you can't store slides, and they're not easily readable. You have to have a slide projector. You're going to spend flashlight time looking at them or something. So that's something that you might want to do digitally. And then when you get the digital, print out a copy. Take them to a photographer service, and print out some copies so that, again, you have a hard copy so that you don't lose those. Okay, you can have, you want to scan them yourself. You can do that for digital storage. I have a scanner, and I scan my photos too, especially if I'm borrowing them for somebody else. Be careful. If they're old, they could crack. All right. And again, be careful if they're very, very old. You might want to take them to a professional photographer, because scanning them, exposing them to that light, can destroy some photographs. All right. Another option, I do this often, is to take them a picture of a picture with a good quality camera. This is an SLR. This would be a Canon or a Pentax or a Nikon. Don't take it with your phone. it's not going to work. Take it with a good, well, you can, but it's not the same. I really recommend finding somebody with a good camera, or most of us have them now these days because they're quite more affordable. Take it yourself. Okay, when it comes to storing your old photographs, and this is probably one of the most important things for genealogy, remove them from any old album. If it is an album with a sticky back, okay, and I'm going to show you what I mean by that. I'm just going to go right back here. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing. And again, I have to find that little arrow. There it is. All right, stop share. Okay. Do you like it how half my face gets cut off? I like myself better that way sometimes. I don't know. Maybe I only want to make up half my face. It works. Okay. So this is a sticky back album. You see what I mean? It's got that right here. It's got that sticky paper. That the stick is long since worn off. So I would open it up, peel it up. All right, so let's go right here. Okay, I'm peeling this up. Hear that peel? You hear that peel? Okay, and then all these are stuck on here. Right here, you can see this is stuck. This one is stuck on there. Now, if I pull it off, I am probably going to wreck it. Okay, this is a problem. And the big problem is, well, I'll cut it off. Sometimes there's a picture on the other side and you can't do that. So there's a couple things you can do. Some people use a hairdryer to heat it up and heat up the glue. I don't recommend that because it could damage the photo, curl the ends. This is a palette knife, or you could use something very thin. You can see how thin this is. Okay, so what I do, I'm gonna hold this up and see if I can get you a good picture of this here. So I'm gonna take this, and put it under here, and I'm gonna kind of slide it through. Yep, and it's coming off. Okay, and I'm getting it. I'm sliding it. And if I keep sliding here, ooh, you can hear that. You can hear that glue releasing, right? And I have my picture. Okay, it came up. That might not always work, okay? Because sometimes if they store these improperly and they were sitting someplace warm, if that glue is really on there. So you're gonna laugh when you see this. Okay, dental floss. All right, I'm gonna open this up. Or not. Okay, there we go. All right. And I'm gonna pull it out. Okay, I'm gonna take off some dental floss. Not just for flossing your teeth, dental floss. How about that? Now this one's gonna be a little bit harder for me to show you, but I'm gonna do the best I can here. See what I can do. Okay, so I'm gonna take a corner of this and I'm gonna peel. I peeled one corner up and I put it underneath the photo and I'm gonna start going like this. It's coming, it's coming. And I'm gonna kind of pull it up. Can you hear that? There it goes. Keep going. Oh my gosh, it's coming. Kind of real gentle. I think I grabbed enough floss here. There we go. And the photo came loose. Okay. It works well. Just be very gentle with it. Get those pictures out of the sticky albums as fast as you can. If there's anything written underneath it, and you want to save the type of handwriting, you want to save her handwriting like you can see on this one. And this is a gosh darn cute picture. She wrote down her age and everything. Take a picture of it then. Or you know, put a piece of paper over it, try to trace it. And then the other thing, here's the cool part, on the back of this picture, there's info. Okay, so if you take it off right, you get that information. 1932. Dolores, 4 months old. See, I never knew that and I never would have guessed because she didn't put anything on the bottom of this picture. If you have pictures and you want to write on them because you don't want to include them in a separate, do not use pen. Write on the back of a picture with a pencil. If you use pen, it could bleed through, it will wreck the picture. Don't use a marker. Okay, use a pencil. Right, don't press real hard because then the imprint will come through in the front. Press very lightly right in the back. I don't recommend writing on a picture at all. But if you're going to do it, use a pencil. So that's one way that you can get those sticky albums. And come on, I know y'all have them. Probably a ton of them. Okay, and then there's another way that people stored pictures. Years ago, you could see my room. It's a mess right now. It's because I had a table set up for last week. I was in an office area, so I go down. So, and that's when they did them like this. Yeah, with the 4 little corners. You can see that. Okay, those are easier to take out. So here's my uncle. one of his friends. You can just kind of, gotta be careful though, pop these out. Okay, now see how this is coming off right here? See how that came with it? Okay, you gotta be careful when you take these out too. So I'm gonna try to pry it out. If I can't, I'm just gonna take that little tab like I just did right now. I'm just gonna take it with me. I don't wanna pull the whole thing out because I haven't got time to store it right now, and I'm just gonna keep it on there. I'm not even gonna try to take it off because I don't wanna take a chance of wrecking the picture. All right, these you need to take out and store properly too, because you can see this is what happens to these over the years. You notice there used to be a picture there, but it's not there anymore. Okay, there's a bunch of loose pictures in the back of this album here. I have no way of knowing where they go. Here's a great picture. I don't, I can see these pictures, but I don't know where in this album they went because they're not marked on the back. So even though he wrote underneath the pictures, I don't know what picture goes with it. So you want to get those out of there and you want to store them and write down any information with them. All right, you can buy, how do I store my pictures? So a couple other things. So you can buy a picture storage box, which is going to be your best way. You can get those at a craft store. If you live in America, Joann Fabrics has them, Michaels has them, Hobby Lobby has them. If you're in a different country, I'm sure you have craft stores over there too. And you just store the pictures stacked, okay? Some people, I recommend storing them, layering them like this, because if you stack them, they might start to curl, okay? Or they might get pressed. It depends, personal preference. Some people say they're better stacked straight up one after another. So it would be one picture and then another picture and another picture. And some people say that it's better to lay them flat. It's a matter of personal preference. It's a matter of what you feel and what you've read up and what you think is the most safe way to do it. Okay, and when I was talking about how pictures destroy over time, if you take a look at this picture, you can see on the bottom here, you see this kind of film that's happening? Okay, this picture is starting to dissolve, right? And over here, you can see the crack. Okay, this picture is not going to last much longer. I need to store this and I need to store it quickly. I just got these pictures from my cousin. And on the back here, I wrote, I don't know if you can see it because I wrote it very, very light. And see, it's right here. I wrote Tommy and I wrote it in pencil, but I wrote it oh so light. It's legible, but I wrote it safely because I don't want to destroy this picture because you can see this is a pretty neat picture. These are my two cousins. So that's what I meant by that. And then what do you do if a picture looks like this? Okay, these pictures got caught in a flooded basement. Again, they were stored in a basement. And people don't know. You just think it's going to be okay, and that's all right. We all do it. So how do I get this picture straight? Well, first thing I did was send it off to iMemories and got a digital copy. Then I came back. Right, you can do this two ways. There's several different ways. And you can see right here that this used to be an album, as you can see the prints where it bled onto the picture. So the other way is called a humidification process, where you put the picture, you put a little bit of water on the bottom, and I've included the website to go for that. And then you put the picture, and then you put something else on top, and then you cover it. You take the plastic box and you cover it, leave it in there for a couple hours, and you come back and the picture is flat. Okay, so some people will put the picture between two towels and press it with a steam iron. Ooh, I don't know. I wouldn't take a chance with that. You can try it. That just doesn't even sound right to me. I wouldn't take a chance with it. There's another way you can do is tin foil and pressing it down with the tin foil that's sliding. There's a lot of them. For me to go over every one of them with you would take way more time than we have to go through today. So I did look up those. And okay, yeah, if they're curled, try humidifying them. Look at the procedure on the internet. If that doesn't work, then you've got that sticky back, store the whole doggone page, right? Just right underneath, just put it in some archival plastic and just store the whole doggone thing. All right, and I've got down here, store the photos laying down. That's the way I do it, but like I said, some people don't. If you're gonna lay them down, layers of acid-free paper between each layer of photos, okay? And if you put more than one photo next to each other, they're going to slide. So you might want to do one-on-one. If you want to display them, use an acid-free album or put them behind museum quality glass. Regular glass does not filter light properly. So if you have a valuable print that you purchase or a painting, you put it behind museum glass, your pictures are just as valuable as that print. They're just as valuable as that Da Vinci painting you've got on the wall. Put them behind museum glass. In fact, they're probably more valuable to you in the long run. And the computer says, Angie, I don't want to go to the next picture again. There we go. Okay, so this is the getting close to the end here. Then I'm going to go over some things. Odds and ends. You may have old letters. Should you publicize them? I have some old letters from my uncle. He was killed in World War II, and he was on the ship. It was a ship was sunk. Tragic story because it didn't have to happen, but it did. So, do I want to publicize his letters? They were really personal. My cousin let me read them. I'm not going to publicize them because they are very personal, and I just feel as if doing that would be giving something away to him. That's a decision you have to make yourself. Okay, are they relevant? Can you gain research from them? If you can, publicize them because somebody else might look at them and go, oh yeah, I remember that, and that came from such and such, and that came from, then it's okay if you can gain research. Will they harm somebody's reputation? Okay, oh my gosh, did you know that Aunt Emma had an affair with, Uncle Mark? Who knew? Don't do that. That's just going to ruin someone's reputation. It's going to hurt the family. You're going to have people who are going to get upset and mad and angry. You're going to cause a rift in families. Don't do it. Personally, I just pitch them. I really would. I would just throw those away. No need to keep them. Nobody needs to see that unless there was a child that came out of it. And then you don't even have to show the letters. You can just say who the child's parents were. Okay, is it a breach of etiquette to read them? Are they private? Like the letters to my uncle, they were private. They were written to his mom. Then yes, then it's a breach of etiquette to publish them to somebody else, unless you have permission from that person to publish them. Okay, if they're from a will or an estate, it might be best to destroy them because otherwise you're going to have people going back and trying to reclaim things, and it's done, it's done. It's in the past. All right, if things have been divided up, let it go. All right, don't bring it up unless it's that important to you, but I just recommend destroying them. And that's what I've done. Family traditions, we've talked about them. Like I mentioned the hand, it's passed down through the years. Write them down. Write down the family traditions you do with your family. Okay, with your kids. Write down what you do when you were little. Okay, what are they? Holiday foods, decorations. I have some of my parents' decorations. I have some of my great-grandparents' decorations. Ethnic traditions. I know a couple who, because she's Italian, they make every night Christmas, they make homemade lasagna and ravioli. They make the pasta, they make everything. Naming traditions your ancestor had. I have Uncle Jim, a Jim the second, a Jim the third. The first child's always got to be named after. That's a family tradition. Wedding practices. Every wedding we pass down, she wears the same dress, or she wears the same locket, or she wears the. Write that down. Things that are passed down from one generation to the other. Those are things that you want to write down. Okay, other odds and ends, and this is just on storage. And I want to go over a couple things. So how do I store? And so I'm going to hit the next slide here. Okay, we'll come back to that. Just hang on. Okay. All right, so I showed you my grandfather's immigration papers, and they're still in the original. Okay, still in the original. I would not take out his paper and store this. It is in very good condition. Okay, I'm going to keep it in here. I'm going to buy, or I have, an acid-free storage. I'm going to store this in the acid-free folder. I'm not going to take the papers out and open them up. You can if you want, and then store this too, because this is part of it. I'm not going to. That's personal preference, but that's another way you can do it. My report cards, and I have them all. And yeah, I was a straight A student all the way across the board. Yep, A+ all the time. We'll just go with that, right? Okay, so that one I stored. I put them in a packet and I stored them all together. I didn't take them out individually. I just put them in an acid-free storage folder and I stored them together and made sure that I could seal it and that it was airtight. Same thing with family heirlooms. If you can put them in a plastic bag, that's safe, or any marriage certificate, something like that. You want to put them separately, that's fine. And there's other things then here. such as, let me get it out here. All right. So property. Okay, so we have some property. And we have, this I did over my house research video I did too. We have the original abstract. Okay, that goes all the way back to when the Indians owned the property. So we're talking 1879, right? How do I store this? Okay, I'm not gonna take out every page, but because this is not good, and I put it back the way it originally was, I am gonna open it up and I'm going to find an archival plastic bag and I'm going to store it that way. So I'm not going to take out page to page because every time this property passes hands, another page gets added. But I am going to store it in an archival bag. Okay, so things that are too bulky, and that would be too much of a pain for you to take out page by page, right? Then you just go ahead and store them as best you can. You know, see what you can find online, ask around, see what other people have done, and then go ahead and do it that way. All right, so we have questions. It's question time. All right, do I have an opinion about reunion for Mac? Right, I'm going to answer that live. Okay. If you mean for a Mac computer, okay, yeah. You can find the same programs and they'll work. They'll give you an option to work on a map. They'll give you an option to work on that or not. So I'm going to move this screen because I can't see anything. Oh, Katie,
Reunion is one of the types of software that you can get for a Mac. I've never used a Mac, so I've never used Reunion. But I know you can find reviews of all the software online if you just Google like genealogy software.
Okay, good. Thank you, Katie, because I don't have a Mac either. Because I'm not smart enough to work on Mac. So they're great computers. My daughter has one. She's, oh, Mom, why don't you move up to the 21st century or 22nd century? I guess, I don't know, 21st century. Okay, what happens if the program only has 6 generations? Start looking for another program. Or write the software maker, contact his website, and see if he can get you, if there's an extension you can get to add on more generations. That's usually possible. Okay, and there are some programs, the one I have is endless. It just goes on and on. I can just keep adding and adding and adding and adding forever and ever and ever, but not all of them are like that. So I would contact a software developer and I would ask them if there's an update that you can add to that program. And chances are pretty good you will. Okay, what do I know?
Sometimes like the freebie ones, like they only offer a certain amount before they want you to pay to get like the unlimited too.
Yeah, Family Search though, which is online, and you can, whatever you save on familysearch.org, you can print. So they have endless. You can keep going and going forever. You can go back to Adam and Eve if you want, and you can print it off. So that's a good one. So I would definitely do that. What do I think of online apps like Photo Mine for taking photos of photos and cleaning them up? I think they're okay. I use Photoshop simply because my daughter gave me the program for free. So you can't beat free, right? How can you beat free? So I use that one, but I think of that program is fine too. You find a good program and it works for you and you understand how to use it, which is the number one thing with it, because some of those can be pretty complicated. Go ahead and use that program by all means. Yeah, it cleans it up because I've had to clean up quite a few photos. Go ahead. But when I send it to iMemories, you send it in, or Legacy, and I'm not saying that you should do this because, like I said, it was a expense for me, but well worth it because I just wanted to see what was on the slides. They'll clean them up for you. And a couple of them came back blurred, and I even wrote back to them and I said, you goofed up on this one. Sure enough, turned around and they fixed them for me. So, and they sent me all my originals. Okay, which
I know they do have some photo restoration groups on Facebook too that will do them for free. I've used PhotoMine or PhotoScan a few times, but you know, sometimes I feel like they're not as great as, you know, having somebody play with Photoshop who knows what they're doing. Like I have no clue what I'm doing when I'm editing photos. So find an expert.
Yeah, I'm getting better, but that's why I sent mine away. And I was going to go to the guy in the corner. He looked at me and says, I can't beat their price. He said, go ahead and send them in. So I did. But if you, like I said, I didn't know there were free ones. I would check. I would check in that, see if there's anybody in your area that does that. And sometimes they just like to do it for fun, just because they like to help you preserve your family history. Okay, which program for genealogy? I'm sorry, does allow you to save photos to the program? Ancestry does. Family Tree Maker does. I think legacy.com does. As far as ones that you buy and then download to your computer, you know what? There's way too many to list. Look them up, and then it'll give you pros and cons. You can go look up best family genealogy software, and then it'll come up a box and it'll compare. A lot of websites will compare the best, and they'll give you the pros and cons of each one. They'll tell you what they say, what they do, what they don't do. And the best thing is the one that I have. You know, I am so embarrassed. I can't remember the name of it now. Oh my God. Am I getting older? What? But the one I have, I can merge with Family Tree. So whatever I research on Family Tree, I can automatically download and save to my computer. And I can do the same with it on Ancestry. Make sure it's compatible. Look on Ancestry, look on Family Org, and make sure if you're going to purchase one for your computer that you're able to download, that you can just transfer what you have on there to the other one, that you don't have to hand put them in, because that is time consuming, let me tell you. Yeah, Katie's shaking her head. Yep. Am I missing any questions here?
There's one more that just came in.
Okay. Let me see. Oh, there it is. I have to go to it. Our research. Okay, the question is, do you have an opinion as to whether it's best to share our research for an ancestral line via a blog, or is it best to get it published in a book? I would first share it in the blog, and then I would see how many people are interested in the book, because maybe they might help you pay for the book, because that's not cheap. But I would ask to see how many people are actually interested. If you want to do it just for you, do it. This is priceless information. This is you. This is all about you and your family. This is where you came from. This is who you are. This is why you're here. I mean, my gosh, if you're like me, you just get so excited about stuff like that. I mean, perhaps I find one stinking middle name and I'm going through the roof because I'm so happy. I can't believe it. Oh my gosh, that's my name. Maybe I'm named after so-and-so. You know, it's just, you just get so excited about that stuff. But I would definitely share it through a blog. And then if enough people seem interested, I would publish a book. And who knows, when you share it through the blog, you probably will get things that you're going to want to add to that book. So if you do the book now, you're going to have to redo it because you're going to miss pieces of information. So I would definitely share it first. And then once you think you've got everything you can possibly get, then I would for sure put it in a book if you want to, or make the book yourself, which is another great presentation Katie and I talked about, making a book. And a couple more that we're
It's
talking
also kind of
about.
like a personal preference too. Like, you know, if you are a better writer and you want to do a book, great. Or if you think that's the easiest way to share it, like if you have family that are not online or not tech savvy, they might prefer a book over a blog that they might not be able to access. I mean, either way, you're preserving that genealogy and your research. So
some people like to see books, and they are great to take to family reunions. Now, my aunt, this is called From Bonnet to Beanie. In other words, she wore a beanie when she was in high school, and she did this when she was in high school. This is pretty old school here. I haven't preserved it yet, but she put pictures, she wrote down every page. This is close, and she wrote a story about everything. This is like gold to me. I found this when I was going through her things one day, and she had dementia at the time, so I just kind of lifted it because I was afraid it was going to get tossed. So being the family genealogist, I just kind of took it, but she didn't hear that from me. But anyway, now it's preserved forever. But this is what I mean about a family book, where you put a picture and you put a story, you know, and people just eat, your ancestors are going to, your relatives are going to eat that stuff up. That's gold, because it's just cool stuff because it brings you closer to those relatives that you never knew. So, and there's one, looks like there's another question. Yep. How do you record jurisdiction if the person lived in Plymouth Colony? Oh. Yes, you do record the county. What first you'll do is record what it originally was. Okay, if you just put down Plymouth Colony, if you get any more information than that, the location, record that. Then record where it is today. Because if somebody wants to go back to the land their ancestors lived on, they need to know exactly where to go. So record the original location first, and then in the notes section, record what it used to be when they lived there. Because that's what I had to do with my great-grandfather over in Romania. Totally different totally different country. It was Hungary and now it's Romania. So I had to record, I put where it is now, Sarbovo, Romania, and the Beaver ship and that, but then I recorded what it originally was. So yeah, that's a very good question. But always make it accessible so that somebody can go there. And you never know, you can go there and you can actually find the house that your ancestor lived in. It's pretty cool. Okay, any other questions?
Yeah, I didn't see any other come through. There's lots of praise for you on a great presentation.
Oh, thank you.
Someone else shared some events through the Florida genealogy group that they have coming up if you want to check those out in the chat. I also posted a link to register for our next one on July 17th. That is on finding your German ancestors in Maps and Gazetteers. So I hope you're enjoying this. We have a short survey if you'd like to take it. It's just 8 questions, just letting us know your opinion on today's session. That's great. And then Angie has her email address there if you have any questions.
Go ahead and email me. I always get back to people. It might not be right away. It might be a couple weeks, but I guarantee you I will get back to you.
If you want to watch the recording again, like I said, it'll be on our YouTube channel probably Monday. So if you missed any of it, you can feel free to return and watch it again.
Okay, thank you for tuning in.
Yeah, thank you everyone. Have a great afternoon and happy Father's Day.
Yeah, happy Father's Day.
You too.
All right. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.